everybody, you're listening to and possibly watching, if you're joining us on the live stream, the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
And I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in or possibly stream in. And we're back with you after one of our standard 2-week breaks, and nothing has gone on in the world. Absolutely nothing.
Zero things. Nothing. It's been boring.
Nothing new. Nothing new in America. Nothing.
No. Really quiet. Really quiet
Jesus.
news.
Seriously, the assassination attempt feels like it was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And the events of Sunday feel like they were about a month ago. So
I know.
It's amazing.
Very quickly.
Oh.
It's moving very quickly. There's a lot of results that are already popping up. Polls being splattered, like everybody and their brother is splattering all these sort of like crazy polls that they're, pulling out of the woodwork. Everything. Some really fun stuff. One of the best ones I saw was comparing the bump, the point bump provided by VP announcements for GOP contenders, and they had Dan Quayle for George H.W. gave him a 15-point bump in opinion polls. Sarah Palin, when she was announced, gave them a 22-point bump, which is wild.
Yeah,
it must have been before she opened her mouth. And then, of course, J.D. Vance, a -5 hit, which was wild. I was not expecting that, and I think
I think after this rollout, you're not going to see too much of James Bowman, and I don't feel any trepidation about dead naming that fuck.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to really support the idea of dead naming people, so we should.
My favorite part of the week was when he got called a shillbilly. That was great.
Yes.
Shillbilly.
And then that meme today about he's what happens when you stick a Creed cassette in a Teddy Ruxpin. I mean that. Oh my god, this is just some funny stuff. We're gay men, folks. You kind of know where we're aligned, so.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
That's not necessarily true. I've seen some crazy shit.
I have seen some straight up like folks who are, who you would think would know better have come out and just really said the quiet part out loud. And I've, just let folks know, which, hey, good for them. Let them speak their truth. I have no problem yeeting them out of out of my atmosphere.
I'd rather know the true you.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I have no trouble with people who have differences of opinion. If you want to vote who you want to vote for, that's fine. You can say that or everything, but it's the way that you go about doing things where you just get real racist real fast. It's like you forgot. That'll get you gone.
Yeah, and that whole thing going like we can agree to disagree. We can agree to disagree about politics.
Sure.
But a disagreement about morality is a disagreement.
Yeah.
That's it.
If you want to debate the dormant commerce clause, let's go. Like we can disagree about that all day long. That's not a problem. If you want to, tell me that I don't get to be a human, then fuck off. Like we're not friends.
That's a little it's a difference in scales, really. One's kind of abstract, the other one is.
We're going to give people a respite from that, but it's just something we kind of had to cover because shit's gone down in 14 days.
Kind of wild. But instead, this, looking ahead to this weekend, oh my gosh, it's a pretty big weekend. It's Big Bang Theory, which I was never a fan of at all. They talked about it constantly. It was Nerd Christmas, and that is San Diego Comic-Con is happening this weekend in San Diego, which may not be for very long with the the rhetoric that's been popping back for the past couple years. I don't think they would.
There's a lot of that that's unfair to the city because a big thing that's kept people away, especially this year, has been the hotel rates.
Yeah.
And some people are going to hotels so far off that they're kind of not in the city.
It defeats the purpose. Yeah.
I think for a show like that, I think it does.
Mm-hmm.
For a show like that, I think it does. I think there's many suburban shows that are big shows, but you know, if you're 40 minutes away, it doesn't matter because nobody's every con's a little different, but I think for that show, it particularly matters. And also, I think it's worth mentioning that we're coming to you, and many other podcasts are not coming to you tonight because they're at Deadpool and Wolverine.
That's true.
That's
you know,
we sacrificed for you.
For you, yes. You know, we're
Could've
planning
all
to
been going
see
to
it. You
see
know,
it.
I mean, look at the name of the show. We're gonna see it, and we're gonna talk about it. Especially if people have been noticing our YouTube podcast numbers. We're getting thousands of views on some of our old movie reviews. The Aquaman, the Black Adam, the Shang-Chi. I mean, very happy to see those numbers. Very, very happy to see those numbers.
Yeah.
So,
You know, so I guess
we're definitely going to be reviewing that movie.
But it's fun too, because when we do movie reviews, as you know, longtime listeners and reviewers have been, you know, have known, is that we also talk about the comics that the movies come from, and then also give you some suggestions and recommendations as well from some of our, you know, most liked stories with these characters, you know, or you know, some other recommendations if we hadn't read much before, and this movie kind of pushed us to actually look up some.
Okay.
Some
Yeah, go ahead, Caleb.
I'm gonna have to. I hadn't even considered that. So we're going to see it tomorrow night. I'm gonna have to sit down and kind of make like a top 5 of my favorite Deadpool stories, or runs, maybe. Yeah, that'll be fun. I haven't even thought about that.
Well, the thing. We've done that very often.
Yeah.
The one that I thought was great was the Captain Marvel one. I thought, it was just Steve and myself, and I thought we nailed that one.
There's a lot.
But this is how long ago this has been going on. This is how long it's been going on. The first time we did that was the first Deadpool movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That was the first time we had a show format like that.
I remember that. Now I'm trying to remember which. I think I did Deadpool and Cable, their first miniseries together.
I think maybe I'm pretty sure I did the Deadpool musical issue, the Deadpool the musical issue, and maybe the Cable Chase, which is his first miniseries, or it's something to chase something. I don't know. Yeah. So
well, and the great thing with
maybe we could do like a great Deadpool story and a great Wolverine story.
Yeah,
absolutely. And there's also other stuff that's you know, all the cameos, the you know,
a great Deadpool book and
Steve, we will limit it.
Steve. Before the show, we were talking about Baltimore Comic Con, and Steve, I'm just thinking about I'll have 2 hot dogs,
a bag of chips,
and a soda.
The soda.
You had to be there. We're not going to torment you with that. So. All right. Well, Steve, take us through some San Diego Comic-Con news.
So, you know, today, of course, is Thursday, the 25th, that we're recording and that we're streaming. And it's basically the opening day. So they do have previews on Wednesday night where they let, you know, a good number of people in to come in and walk the floor. But usually there's no announcements on Wednesday night. You get to see, and I've been watching them. I know, Bill, you've been watching them too. Caleb, I don't know if you've caught any, just sort of like the walkthroughs of the booths and, you know, the displays that are out there, you know, this year. There's a lot of great stuff. It looks like, and this year in particular, the general feeling is that San Diego Comic-Con is back for the first time since the pandemic. You know, there has been some online, you know, San Diego Comic-Con stuff that's been out the past couple of years. Plus last year was an in-person show as well. But I think this year, the general idea is that it's back. Now, I'm not sure if it's just because you've got Marvel in Hall H again, that are they're going to be making some big announcements. But it seems like even DC has had a really good presentation. Their big, one of their big reveals was today about again, not talking about movies, but talking about comics, where they were talking about the upcoming All In, the new Justice League Unlimited, as well as more information about their Absolute line. And one of the surprise announcements there was that there will be an Absolute Flash book. That's going to be coming out, and I'm trying to remember who was going to be on that team.
It's Jeff Lemire writing.
Is it Jeff Lemire? Okay,
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I found that really interesting because I have never heard one word out of that man about how Flash is cool.
No, and that'll be
Jeff Lemire
but
Nick Robles on art.
It's a smart take because he writes family dynamics really well, right? He makes it work really well. So it'll be fun to see what he does with that character.
Yeah.
And it's not a particularly violent character either. And a lot of times when he writes superhero stuff, it's really violent.
Yes and no. I think he also has a very contemplative side.
Sure.
And I think if he writes this in a way that it's more of a thinking, character study, kind of like, Bloodshot, the Bloodshot Reloaded originally, or Bloodshot Reborn, that he did. But also Plutona, is that's a very different type of story, but it also is, again, just focused on characters in a very sort of quiet way. I'm excited about that.
His Moon Knight was very contemplative. It was just also very violent. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a possibility that Flash could be violent as well. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of blood and guts, but
I don't really think it lends itself. I don't think there's a concept that lends itself to violence. I mean, I think about the most you can do is, reverse Flash pummeling someone to death in super speed. There've been moments that's been kind of
which he has a couple times.
I just don't think it's a concept. It's a franchise that lends itself to that. And let's say he's not locked to it. I mean, Superboy was mysterious but not violent at all. And if he had done 4 years on Superboy, I would have been very happy. Yeah.
And that's pretty good. And then also Scott Snyder is going to be writing Batman again, but it's Absolute Batman. And as he's added some more information on the description, it's Bruce Wayne, but it's not Bruce Wayne. This isn't a Bruce Wayne who's a billionaire. This is a Bruce Wayne who is an engineer, who works for the city, who's more likely to be, wearing a hard hat, in his day job than a tuxedo. And that's really interesting. It also kind of lends to the fact that he made Batman a beefy boy. So apparently we got a big, thick, meaty, beefy boy Batman to go along with the big, thick, meaty boy with floppy hair Superman that Jason Aaron is writing. And one of the weird comments that Jason Aaron had mentioned is that he's made the Superman a little bit, more maybe more gruff, but also a little bit sexier. I mean, I've always thought he was pretty woofy, but I don't know. Maybe he's more of a Chippendales dancer in the Absolute Universe. We're not sure. We'll see. But yeah. So I'm excited with that. But also, they did announce the return of Justice League Unlimited. And
talk about that team.
I mean, the team reveal, if you guys wanted to talk about the team reveal.
Well, it's the world's finest team of Mark Waid and Dan.
I am stoked about that. And we were talking the other day, and it's just you knew it was coming to an end, but I did not want World's Finest to come to an end. I love that team. I love what they've done. But the fact that team is staying together and they're transitioning over to something else, it is amazing, right? I was just it's everything I want. Just let that duo just run with it for a long, long time.
The team looks pretty interesting. One character that is normally associated as a villain appears to be part of the team, Star Sapphire. Well, traditionally, I know
and
the emotional spectrum of Jeff Johns, got remixed.
That sounds like a documentary, The Emotional Spectrum of Jeff Johns.
Jeff Johns. Yeah.
It's just him in a room alone and like laughing and then crying and then being
no, I'm indigo. No, I'm red.
Now I'm mad. Hey, we do have some people popping in.
Cool.
We've got Diggs BTW1. Hey, what's up?
That's
hey, what's up? BTW1. We also have Cliff on Comics is joining us. Comic Book Bears, where the F have you been hiding? Well, we've been here for 12 years. 12 years.
12 years. Yeah.
12 years. So
you've just been right here waiting on you, baby.
Yeah.
The algorithm, man. It just was waiting. Just waiting.
Yeah.
But he also mentions here that JLU with Mark Waid sounds amazing, and we all agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just want to say some of the new creative teams that are part of the All In, Action Comics with its new format, with Mark Waid after a 39-year wait, finally writing a monthly DC Superman book, but also with a backup written by Mariko Tamaki on Supergirl, on Real Supergirl. So many, of course, I'm glad to see Tom Taylor and see what he's going to do in Detective Comics, but I'm very sad to see Titans and Nightwing be collateral damage in that transition. It's just some really interesting stuff going on with All In.
And All In plus
like
the Absolute together.
Yeah, seems like a good time because there's, like I said on the last show, the Absolute Power was a great way to get me interested again. And you're gonna have the Absolute line for all those people. It's like, I can't deal with continuity. You got that. You got something different.
And this time they're not throwing
some
away
of our best
everything.
Friends. But there are the types that just
I really want a soundbite of you doing and saying what you just said.
What?
I just can't handle the continuity.
What I do is I feel like Deanna Troy, like those moments with Deanna Troy, Next Generation, where she's like, I hear voices,
And for those of you who aren't watching or listening, Bill's doing the whole like back of the hand on the forehead faint thing. It's amazing. It's great. And only the ham-fisted way that he can do it and make it awesome.
Yeah.
And also they did mention with All In, they are going to start All In with what appears to be a flip book. So you're going to have Justice League on one side and then Darkseid's story from his perspective on the other. And then
it ties into both Absolute and DCU.
Absolutely.
Look what you did there. What a niece.
I've been sitting on that all week. So basically, it's
how do you get dick from Richard? All right, go.
How do you get dick from Richard? You ask nicely. But yeah, I mean, you have Darkseid, tying into both universes, so there is some, common thread that could potentially lead to them crossing over, or at least have some kind of, commonality between them, or possibility of commonality between them. But one of the good things that I'm really happy about, which I know a lot of people really hated, longtime fans I think, hated about 2011's New 52 initiative, is that they basically cut everything off, threw it all away, and then started fresh. It got me back in reading superhero comics, so I'm not going to bash it that much. But I think there was a lot of that, I want to read my Superman. I want to read my Batman. It's like, well, here with this new initiative, you've got all of those books are still running, and now you have this, this other Absolute thing. And it's very similar to what Marvel did around with the Ultimate, line of comics back in the day. Ultimate now is very different, but also very interesting. I've been loving Ultimate X-Men. Ultimate Spider-Man we've talked about as being amazing too.
There's an interesting behind the scenes thing that I think plays into this a little bit too, which is the fact that some of these characters are coming up on the copyright date, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't know that this changes everything. I mean,
we got some time on that. We still got some time on that.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, they have to do new things too, because Disney just recently hit that mark with early Mickey Mouse too, and I think that's got some of these legacy companies thinking about these characters and what to do and how to reinvent these characters so that versions of them will have their copyright and they can go on and play with them. Not that I think that that's absolutely the case, but I think that plays into it a little bit.
Yeah, I really don't think these companies have too much to worry about in terms of how strong trademark laws. And for people who are tuning in, 2/3 of us are attorneys, so sometimes we get mired in that. So, but yeah, not that guy, not the guy pointing. Yeah,
not me.
And
I don't read law.
You know, it's not like we've had an onslaught of Steamboat Willie, Mickey, Pervader culture.
No, but some of them, some of the stuff that came out has been fun.
It's been fun, yeah, but it's like, but the more potent stuff has been parody.
Sure.
So you know, I don't think, you know, I mean, the first big characters that are going to hit the public domain or Superman, Clark Kent, and Lois Lane. Yeah. Those are the first three. The Daily Star, but Metropolis doesn't hit public domain for some time. Krypton doesn't hit. You know, so there's, even if you wanted to tell Superman stories, you're limited.
Right.
So, I don't think people are going to do that. Action
as Cliff said, look for the Action Comics the horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be some interesting things that come out of it. But one of the good things about
he's not a New Deal. The old style Superman is not a New Deal Democrat.
he's just pure passion. Anyway. Yeah. I really like what that
he lifts that car and kills people.
Yeah, just smash it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, with some of these things, with, you know, I think with the comics industry and just the indie comics movement, we've already had our versions of Superman. We've already had our versions of Batman. Like, there's so much that's already out there.
Sure.
And then that's not even to say, like, the stuff that's already been in the public domain. You know, Gosh, Dynamite's been putting out books. I mean, that's been bread and butter for, you know, years, and putting out some really great stuff. Like, that's the thing. No, it's not all gold, but I mean, there's been some really interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard Caleb and I wax poetic about how Project
Superpowers. You give me Project Superpowers, and it's that's great. And I mean, there's other books on that line too that hit that mark, and it's give and take, right? Some of it is how can you take the continuity of these characters, distill them down to the bare bones of what makes these characters fun, and inject them into new and current environments. And that is absolutely kind of what Mark Waid is great at, right? If you go back and, I mean, if you take and you read what he's been doing with World's Finest, it is classic Superman, right? And some classic Batman, but it's not stale. Right, and it's not stale, and it's not boring and old. He's using it in ways that fit 2024, but he knows how to read those characters.
Yeah,
in a way that maybe Brian Bendis didn't. And so I think there's like you can see what they did and compare and contrast them.
Yeah, I mean, with Bendis and the many changes he brought in, that was also tied with him losing his luster in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I think the Bendis of the early 2010s could get away with Riley Rossimo on a book, and the Bendis of a few years ago just couldn't.
Yeah, I don't know that he knew what to do with those.
Yeah, I think he took a lot of chances.
Yeah,
and there was some stuff. I really liked the Wonder Comics line. Across.
Oh yeah. It was fun.
There were things that I really liked, but in DCU proper, there were some issues. We'll just put it that way.
Sure.
I mean, he gave us a Legion book.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're still not seeing that with Olin, so
haven't been seeing much of that. Yeah.
Yeah. But we talked DC has been there. Have been there. Have there been any Marvel? I pray thee, sir, have been there any
Marvel announcements?
So have there been any Marvel announcements, Steve?
I have not seen anything yet, but that is probably because at least for say the MCU stuff. They're going to be saving that for Hall
Yeah.
H.
And
So that's
also,
where I think
I don't think they have. I think their comic panels start tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think there's been some sort of just interviews that have been coming out, all sort of in preparation of this. A lot of it's around Deadpool and Wolverine being sort of this this new blockbuster phenomenon that could potentially just kickstart more interest again into the MCU films. But it's been pretty clear this is not an MCU movie, specifically MCU movie, even though it does tie together and reference a lot of stuff that's happened. But I think what they're going to be presenting in Hall H, obviously, going to be talking about Agatha's new series, the Agatha All Along series, which I'm personally really excited for. And I think Caleb, the fact that we're going to get a Billy, we're going to get a Wiccan, here in this. However, they're going to do it.
Yeah, so we're getting one of my favorite characters in Marvel, who's played by one of my favorite young actors on TV right now. I mean, I'm super stoked about that. I mean, and I would love it if they would go ahead and just let us know that not only is Joe Locke playing Wiccan, that we're getting our Hulkling, and our Hulkling is absolutely who we think it's going to be. I would like to see that. That would just be fun. But. Yeah, I'm kind of like you. Like the MCU, the movie stuff, that's gonna sell itself. Like that's gonna. I am, of course, I'm excited about that, right? And who's not? But I would like to see Marvel Comics put out a good showing of things that they have got planned for the next year at San Diego Comic-Con, because I'm a Marvel mark, right? My favorite characters in comics are Marvel characters as far as superhero folks go, and they're struggling right now. Like I'm reading some Marvel books, but there's just not a ton of like stuff out there that's really great right now. Whereas DC is arguably firing on a ton of cylinders, right? Like there's books that are kind of like, man, but there's a lot of amazing stuff. Yeah, like DC is hitting it, and Marvel's just not, right. And I need them to come up with something fresh to kind of revitalize their line. Really, like I need a new Immortal Hulk type thing that's going to hit, and we just haven't gotten something like that. And they're putting out some good stuff. I don't need people, and I'm going to talk about one later, right? Like there are good books at Marvel. I'm not trashing them completely as a line, but there is a lot of stuff that is basically just filler. And I need a series that is going to be the blockbuster of the book of that market again, because it's not there.
Yeah. I think a fair way of putting this, Caleb, and I hate to throw the Lost stuff back, but there's a lot of Marvel projects right now that I think could be characterized as trademarks don't renew themselves.
Right.
And it's true that like you said, filler. I think there's a number of miniseries that basically serve more to keep those characters in some kind of retail spotlight more than any creative justification for it.
Yeah. I do have to say, like, they're putting out Blood Hunt now, and Blood Hunt started out very strong. I don't know how it's going at this point, but I know one of the things that they will be talking about is what comes post Blood Hunt, like what changes are actually carrying over. Are there going to be any ongoings that spin out of this potentially? But is that enough? Now, one of the things that they have been doing, and I know we're going to get more information about this, is the sort of, the revitalization of the X line of books. And the first issue number ones of the first series have dropped this month. And I'll be talking about one of them. But yeah, I mean, those are two things. But I don't know, and I don't know if anybody's really expecting them to come out with some new like big blockbuster plan for the comics line for the end of this year or the beginning of next year. Which it sounds like DC's already got a great plan in place, and I'm sure Marvel's got something brewing, and hopefully we'll hear about it this weekend.
They just can't find traction. Over the past 5 to 6 years, they've had some really great books, right? Some really great singular titles. But they have not had an overall cohesive plan for anything, right? Even the X-Men, right? Krakoa was great, right? Hoxpox was awesome. And
Yeah.
then they watered it down, right? They spread it, like, instead of taking one good idea and using it to launch across the board, they watered the X-Men line down by doing 40 X-Men books that 35 of which didn't fucking matter. You know, so.
Yeah,
Immortal Hulk was amazing, right? Like, but that was just it. What's not popping? Spider-Man's not popping, which should be their flagship. Fantastic Four is not popping. Captain America is okay. The Avengers is the Avengers is good right now, but it's good in juxtaposition to the fact that Jason Aaron's run was hot trash. So.
It wasn't so much that Aaron's run was hot trash; it was 4 years of hot trash.
It was, yes.
It never, and I kept in. I got the entire run except for a few issues of Avengers Forever because I don't know if that really.
Well, and I've got the entire Avengers Forever run too, just because I'm a fan of Aaron Kuder's
art. I just kept waiting for it to kick in and waiting, and it just never did.
No, because Aaron can't write team books. Like,
I worry that might be the case. Yeah.
I know that's the case.
So just a quick comment from Cliff here. OMG, bring back the Legion DC. Yeah, we found another Legion fan. We found another one.
Just don't put Jason Aaron on it.
Yeah,
Cliff, just looking at your picture, you look like a very bearish version of somebody I work with, and it's kind of blowing my mind.
Thank you again for joining us, Cliff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's some potential there, but I think they really need to focus on overall improving what they have.
And when you're saying when you're saying stuff like the best book, in my opinion, that Marvel is publishing right now is a Spider-Man book, but it's not a Spider-Man book in Ultimate Spider-Man. We need that excitement in the main line.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And
I also want to say, we've covered like DC and Marvel. There's, as the weekend goes on, there's going to be these like really cool announcements about indie publishers.
Yeah,
some new ones that are popping up. Like today was the announcement of, oh geez, I had it ready and of course it's gone. Hold on a second. My thing moved on me and I'm not happy about that.
I'm usually happy
when I hate when your thing moves.
Funny joke, man. Haha. So Panic Entertainment is a new imprint that Mark McCann from DC Comics is the chief creative officer, and one of their early books is going to be written by, and I'm going to butcher this guy's last name because I never had to pronounce it, David Dastmalchian. Is that right, Steve? You probably know.
Dastmalchian?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's how you pronounce it.
I think that's right.
I think so too. Who also has a DC one shot of a Creatures Commandos coming up as part of All In. And that's also interesting about All In. Some of them are one shots.
Yeah,
a good amount of the solicits for October are one shots. That's kind of cool.
Which is fun because it gives it. It's something that gives a lot of newer writers a chance to kind of find something fun, but also it's not a lot of commitment. But
look for some of the announcements of some of the smaller publishers, especially new smaller publishers that are coming out. I assume with everything brewing with Mad Cave, with them kind of taking a lead now in licensed properties, and I have a book to talk about that. You're probably going to see. I imagine there's going to be at least one big Mad Cave announcement. So
there was something I want to say. Dark Horse, was it Dark Horse who got rights for? I'm trying to recall what it is. Yeah, it makes for great podcasting. But there was an announcement about getting rights away from IDW for a particular series.
Power Rangers, maybe, so that it's part of Hasbro proper. But that would be Image.
No, it wasn't that. It was something else. No,
it wasn't. Wasn't Rocketeer, was it? Does IDW still have that?
I wouldn't consider that a big franchise. Sorry.
Rocketeer to me. So I want it to be a big franchise.
But just keep in mind, I'm a very, very
well. The biggest one of all is Gargoyles, and they're still at Dynamite. So.
Wow, I'm all licensed books this time I'm talking.
Nice.
It is actually. I did notice
I'm
that.
all licensed books. Yeah.
Oh, well, and I do want to say, if you are at San Diego Comic-Con this weekend, go find our dear friend David Hazan and give him, fist bump, whatever, that you do, and tell him his buddies at Comic Book Bear said sincere love.
He has some signing times.
Yeah.
Mad Kid.
Yeah.
Just people who are in our orbit, like Tony Fleeks had an amazing week.
Oh man, like
four new books and his birthday.
Yeah, 4 new books, his birthday. He's at San Diego. And by the way, go read Farrell's. It's amazing.
But also, I have to say, and like some of this was my disappointment with New York Comic Con's press decision. I usually have zero FOMO about San Diego. Because it's so far away and it's such a beast to even do it. But Steve and I were talking about this with our friend Tito. Like, I really wish I was there this weekend for some reason.
It seems like there's just a lot. I think it's the feeling. It really, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah, this is a feeling that it's back. But
it also seems like it's back, but it's never going to be back to the level of just a Hollywood soft premiere. Vehicle. I think we're past that. Some of that is because the way we consume media has changed. So I don't know, but there's just something a little different this time. Yeah. And it's also apparently like it wasn't that horrible to get tickets this time around.
I don't have FOMO.
That just may be a recalibration of, they have like a certain peak and then it levels off again, so.
Yeah. I don't have FOMO over cons that I have not been to unless a bunch of my super close friends were there. So I before I got to go to Charlotte, I had FOMO about Charlotte every time because you guys were there. All the EOC guys were there. Same with C2E2, and then I started to go and had all the friends there. Baltimore, I get FOMO about that because people I know are there. I don't get FOMO about San Diego Comic-Con because while I do have some really good friends who are there, my closest friends aren't there, and I've never been before. So I get FOMO about New York Comic-Con because A, a lot of my friends are there, and B, I've been once and it was so much fun. It's one of my favorite memories of a con experience, right? And so I'll get that, but San Diego not so much.
And there's so many cons I'd love to do at some point. I'd love to do Emerald City.
And Rose City.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to do Toronto. I'd
like to do FlameCon.
Okay.
I've never been. I legit would. No, I would like to do. For me, I would like to do FlameCon. I know other people are like, yeah, but I want to go.
I would like to see the recent LGBT con that happened in Los Angeles, and unfortunately, BentCon I think just petered out after 2 years. The thing you would have really liked along the queer lines, Caleb, was Comics and Queers.
Yeah,
that was like a Comic-Con, but also going to college at the same time.
What was that one they have every year in San Francisco? It's the Folsom Street Con. I want to go to that one.
Yeah. I hear Artist Sally.
I don't mean to be a bitch about FlameCon. I've hosted panels there. I've gone many times. It's just I find it surprising somebody would put that in the FOMO category. Let me just put it.
Yeah, but so again, for me, it's just like I would like to go once, and for other folks,
I think out of all those Comics and Queers, which I think died to death, unfortunately, you would have been in heaven at that. You would have been in absolute heaven at that. You would have been able to talk about your Zipatone at the ass for like 4 hours with other people.
Yeah, see, that's what I need. I just need a room.
Your version of that.
Yeah, I need a room full of just people on somewhere on the the rainbow spectrum talking about Zipatone. That's
Well, Steve, if you don't have any other news, we probably should get to some comics. It's 10:11 already.
Oh my gosh, yeah, 40 minutes of that. Well, yeah, and interestingly enough, this time around, I actually have 2 big 2 comics.
Well, then why don't you start with one of them?
Yeah, so what I'll start with the Marvel book, because again, usually do this, but I'm going to start with a Marvel book. And like I mentioned, the X-Men line is being reborn, and what better way to represent that rebirth is with Phoenix #1. I'm a huge Jean Grey fan. I absolutely love Phoenix. I love Jean Grey's books. I like the books that have been.
I have to say this because Steve, you're somebody that doesn't really kind of trumpet your favorites, but I do notice, like, especially like your trading habits on Marvel Tops and stuff, that sometimes I do see that there are some favorites. My friend Tom Moynihan's the same way. Like, I know he has favorite bands, but he'll never talk in that fashion, you know.
Yeah.
And you're kind of the same way. So like I noticed that there's a little more Jean Grey cards than some others. And
It is true, and
yeah,
again, I don't have like a lot of Jean Grey stuff. I don't have a statue or
yeah.
anything. But if somebody were to talk to me about like, hey, who's your favorite X-Men? It's a hard choice, but almost always Jean Grey comes up. And
And
this
speaking of what we said before, there's been many moments of Jean Grey.
Scott. This in this case, really,
I
it's
get
Scott who's
worse.
kind of doing the Jean, because Phoenix, of course, now Jean Grey has left Earth. She has moved on. She has I mean, she's, just living her life cosmic, right? This series is put out by Stephanie Phillips, and I think obviously I love the writing here. I love the care and knowledge she puts into this person, this version of Jean. And we've also got Alessandro Miracolo on art, and I'm not too familiar with his artwork, but I absolutely think it's really gorgeous. So I'm throwing up. This is the cover that I have, the main cover. But I mean, just some of this artwork. It's nice. It's done well. We've got David Curiel on colors, and Corey Pettit on letters as well. And I think, the design of this book is done really well. We've got some really great panel work. Beautiful, lots of flame imagery because, of course, it's Phoenix. And the first, right out the gate, she's essentially eating all of the energy from a sun that's just about to go nova and destroy a civilization, which is kind of a reversal from where the Dark Phoenix origins came in, where one of the big evil things that Dark Phoenix did was consume a sun and destroy a civilization. Here, Jean is saving that civilization by consuming a lot of the excess energy from the sun. And while she's doing that, she's also kind of, checking in with Scott back home on Earth, like, "Hey, dude, notice that you're not wearing a shirt. How things?" And it's nice. It's a nice check-in. It really highlights their relationship and where they are in their relationship. Long distance has nothing on this because she's, 3 galaxies away. Um, but beside, you know, what her actions are, there's also sort of a secondary narrative that's going on in this book. And there's a narrator that's not necessarily unseen, but isn't really, being highlighted in the action. And it's sort of the voice of a person who's on that planet that she just saved. Um, Her father was a escapee from the Church of Universal Truth, and basically has rallied his people to find faith in like a new god, and that new god being the sun, essentially, in this planet. And now that the world's being destroyed, sort of his fear and his uncertainty and sort of everything that's happened from the Universal Church is kind of driving him a little crazy here. And so people are basically getting ready to die in the supernova, and the Phoenix saves them. The Phoenix being this mythical creature that everybody knows is a destroyer of worlds, and here she is saving them. But it does come back a little bit later, because one of the things that Jean does in this particular issue, other than consuming the extra fire from the sun, Nova, Richard Rider Nova, calls to her for help. He's on a floating prison that's near a black hole, and the black hole is basically is just gotten too powerful, and it's going to be torn apart killing him, the jailers, as well as all the vicious galactic villains that are that are incarcerated there. And Ryder, of course, back from the dead, I don't know how many times, back from all sorts of things. He's trying to save everybody, but he knows that he can't do it alone. So he calls for Jean Grey for help. Because who else could help against a black hole but the Phoenix herself? The only unfortunate thing is there is a particular prisoner here. And I am not too familiar with him, but I believe that you two probably would be, and that is Pericus, who defeated Thor at some point. I guess was a major Thor villain. He finds a way to escape in the confusion, in the chaos, where Jean has to sort of focus on saving everybody in this prison. He finds a way to escape, and where does he escape to? The planet that Jean just saved. So we're in a very interesting situation here, where Pericus is poised to become a little bit more of a major villain in this particular series. While Jean is off having her cosmic adventures, he might be turning this planet that Jean just saved into a hellhole. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm really excited about this because in the preview pages that they have, and yes, this is one of those where they do have the obnoxious QR code at the end that will show you the true final page of the book. All of the new X titles are going to have these. I guess it's an anti-piracy measure, possibly. I don't know. But in any case, what they have coming up in this book, we've got the Starjammers. This is just going to be a fun cosmic romp that I'm really happy to see highlighted and led by Jean Grey Phoenix. And so I'm really excited for this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Stephanie Williams on here, and Alessandra's art. I'm really happy with it. I think this is a good look for this book, and it's a good feel for this book, and I'm excited to see who they all throw at this. Because I mean, once you start bringing in cosmic Marvel, there's so many possibilities out there, and obviously Phoenix as a cosmic entity, Jean Grey's been stuck on Earth quite a bit, and we were talking about Bendis earlier. One of my favorite storylines from Bendis when he was writing the X-Men, the all-new X-Men, is the crossover they had with Guardians of the Galaxy, with young Jean Grey being imprisoned and put on trial by the Shi'ar Empire because she would become a Phoenix. And even though she is Jean Grey, she's a younger version of Jean Grey, they put her on trial anyway because, well, she's the same person, so might as well. And putting Jean Grey in that cosmic context and having her go just like superpower, super duper power, was just really fun, and I'm excited to see her in that context again.
So Steve, just to give you kind of a brief overview, I was trying to find, I can't remember who quote unquote created Pericus or when the first appearance was, but he's a member of what's called the Dark Gods, which are kind of like the antithesis to the Asgardians, and so he was one of them. That he has a scythe. He was one of them that he beat Thor. He broke Mjolnir for a while, and there was a whole little arc of him. I wouldn't say he's a major player in Thor. I don't think he's been in that many comics actually, but he's somebody in the lore that Thor was scared of. He's a little bit they're derivative of kind of what they're derivative of, which is the Dark Gods. They feel a little apocalypsy, to borrow the term from our DC friends, if we're going to go into what that is. But that's kind of just the gist of where it's at. So,
if I'm correct, I think that was from Dan Jurgens' run.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not old. But I don't. I think it predates Jason Aaron. We're just going to talk about Jason Aaron a lot tonight.
Jason Aaron Bendis, even though they're not on any of these books that we were talking about.
Yeah, I think it predates. Well, it's true as of right now. But I think it predates Jason Aaron's run. But it doesn't. It's not like Simonson. I don't think.
It's not as far back, but
yeah.
Even I think he was on the 90s.
Yeah.
The very tail end in the 90s. So
The-
it's not the early
30 years ago.
It's a while. It's the
3 decades have since passed.
Okay. Now, Caleb, I think you have a Marvel book too.
I do. So, and this is where we're gonna prove Steve wrong, and we're gonna talk about a Jason Aaron book. I actually am super excited about this because I didn't know how it was going to go, and turns out it went great. I picked up, as is my way, Namor #1 because Namor is one of my favorite Marvel characters. And I was kind of nervous about this book for the reason that we talked about. Jason Aaron's Avengers, which this kind of spills out of, was not great. And I did not particularly like what Jason Aaron did with Namor, who, again, I have a deep and powerful love for, mostly because of his abs, but there's also other reasons that he keeps locked in that little Speedo that he has. But fun character. I really enjoy him. And so, like I said, I just did not care for that. So I picked this up because I'm going to pick it up, right? I was always going to do, but I didn't know how I was going to feel about it. The book is fantastic. The book is absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved it. It showcases what Jason Aaron does best, where he takes a single character or just maybe one or two characters, right, and really drives home on that character because he does know the lore. He knows the history. He knows how to write them. He does a fantastic job about taking their voice and really adapting it and putting it through to what they want to do. He's done it well with Thor. He did it well with the Punisher, right? He's done it well he did it well with Scrooge McDuck, like in a book 3 weeks ago. I was kind of baffled and amazed. If you're reading his book, what is it? The apocalyptic book, Love in the Apocalypse or whatever. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. It's from Boom Studios, I think.
Once Upon a Time at the End of the World.
Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. Again, 2 characters in that one. Fantastic, right? But any book that I've read that Jason Aaron's on where he gets spread too thin in too many places with too many kind of voices, he just doesn't do it. But this is what he does best, right? So this again, it's spilling out of his Namor run. If you remember that, Namor became a villain. He put together this little group of Atlanteans, and he came to kind of like punish the world, mainly because of global warming and what they're doing to the seas, right? Kind of became what is the opposite of an anti-hero, right? Like a positive villain, he Bill was going to say something, then cracked up.
Pro villain. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. We probably could come up with a really clever term, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. So and he did, and I guess fortunately for everybody else on the world, he did not succeed in his kind of weird save the earth by getting rid of the humans genocide parade, but he got arrested for it. Like, he's getting locked up. And so this book starts off with that. They are keeping Namor in a very, very, very hot, like, this place makes the raft look like a fun little weekend getaway, right? Extremely, they keep him locked up. Like, dude is running on like major dehydration systems. They're keeping him drained of water. They don't let him have any of it. When this story takes out, he reminds you, for the average Atlantean, they maybe can last a few hours without water. It's been 6 weeks since he touched a drop of liquid. And so they are keeping him depowered, extremely dehydrated, and just kind of broken. And he's okay with it. He has accepted his fate. He has accepted the fact that he has failed he's failed Atlantis. He's in kind of a way in self-exile, right? He at least gives you, and some of this may be in his own head, but he gives you the understanding that he's allowing himself to be incarcerated here. He's in prison as both a punishment for what he did, and for his failures, but for mainly just failing Atlantis. And he's getting abused, right? The guards are vicious. They're beating him up. They're taking their frustration. They're doing what they do. And again, he's just kind of going for it, allowing it to happen. And he's spending a lot of time reflecting on it. He's thinking about times where when he was a kid in Atlantis, when he was young Namor, and kind of his formative years. And what's really cool about this book, and it's a comic trope, I guess, that I really love, where they use different artists to show you different eras, different times. So your current art is drawn really, really well by Paul Davidson. Fun artist, does a really great job. But the sweet spot for me is these kind of these backsplash scenes where he is drawn by Alex Lynn. Alex Lynn's is the artist that I praised about on the Hellcat run from not too long ago. I absolutely adore his stuff. He's fantastic. Steve, for those of you who are watching, you're seeing a bunch of the different covers, the variant covers that are popping up. That have been done by some incredible people like Elizabeth Torque. Alex Maleev has done some. Matthew Wilson. I think this is Josh Cassara right here. Just incredible work. This may be Josh Cassara, actually. I'll have to go back and look. This may be Frederico. No, the last one was Frederico Belief. That's who it was. But he's remembering what made him Namor, right? So he's showing his childhood where he's the light-skinned guy who gets picked on for being different, even among kids, because kids are assholes. And so it shows these kids who are like, they take him out to this little sulfur lake at the bottom of the ocean, which those things are real. They exist. And they're trying to like goad him into going in, and it's going to kill him. And his mother, of course, the queen, has reminded him that, hey, these are where the monsters dwell. Like, don't go here. And what happens? A big tentacle monster comes out, and he has to deal with it in a way that really solidifies both his viciousness and his power and his intelligence, that he does not have to do things. He can make Atlanteans do things. It shows how he understands Atlantis. It shows how he really understands how to co-opt these movements and get his subjects to follow him and do what he wants to do, and puts down dissent. It's these lessons that he's learned that's led him all his life, right? And now as he's sitting here in this prison, in self-exile, that's going to play a role, because a figure shows up in this, and it's a figure that, if you saw their last get together, did not go well. It's Stingray. Stingray shows up, right? And if you saw the last time that these two got together, Namor basically fed him to a shark. Stingray barely made it out. So, but what's happening here is that Stingray is coming up and is like, hey, since you've been gone, there's about 7 different factions. It's an uber civil war, right? Tuma's doing his thing, but so are all these other people. It's chaos, and it's affecting trade routes, right? It's affecting everything on the surface dwellers, and they're getting pissed off because it's messing with their aircraft carriers. It's messing with their yachts. It's messing with everything. And they're only going to put up with this for a little bit, right? They're packing up nuclear harpoons and about to go ham on these people because they're broken and fractured, and they see this as a time where if they don't quit, this is the chance. So you're getting a 4-day work release, Namor. And whether you like it or not, you're going to get your little Speedo in the water and flap your little ankle wings, and you're going to go down there and you're going to solve problems, because Atlanteans are going to get extinguished if you don't, right? There's about to be a full-scale genocide on ocean dwellers if you are the one person who can do this. And I don't give a shit that you fed me to a shark. I don't care that you're pouty and being all angsty and doing what you do best. Get down there and fix it. So that's your story. That's where it's going, right? It's going to be really fun. This is broody Namor. He's not in a good mood. He's self-deprecating. He's pissed off. Like, it's good Namor. It's with his back against the wall. It's this the man is a prince with no underlings. And that's when some of my favorite Namor moments come out, right? And so I'm super excited about this. Jason Aaron wins. Like, Jason Aaron, he stepped in and he kind of like, hey, I know what I did with the Avengers. It wronged you specifically, Caleb. This is what Jason Aaron's thinking. And he's like, take this, and it's going to make it better. And it did. I'm loving what he did. The art is, again, fantastic. There weren't a lot of pages available online for me to post up here, so this is the very first page. This is Paul Davidson doing some really, really fantastic work. So if you like Namor, if you like these fun stories where you have a figure who is kind of waffling about who he is, kind of waffling about his place in the world, self-deprecating, who deserves bad things to happen to him, who has done really bad things, but kind of maybe also has a window for redemption, that's what Jason Aaron's going to give us with this character, and I can't wait to follow it down the rabbit hole. It's going to be fun, and we need a good Namor story.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way actually about DC's Aquaman. To go to the other side and their Atlantean King. Cliff here also, Namor the sexy bastard. I love his old shirtless covers. So yeah, I mean, there is the difference there. I mean, for me, Aquaman, one of the best storylines was Kelly Sue DeConnick when she stripped him of his memories, his kingdom, everything, and just threw him on an island and had him rediscover himself with the help of some ancient sea gods. This one, I mean, it sounds, like Jason Aaron's doing the same thing with Namor in terms of like stripping him of everything that makes him, that gives him that confidence, that ego. He is the king ego himself. But all of that is now gone. It's stripped away, and he kind of has to sort of start from zero to build himself back up again, and then get thrown right back into prison.
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm here for it. Like I said, I don't need Namor to be in good standing with the rest of the world, right? That's not who he is. It's never been who he is. He is a king. He does have a people to look out for. But I also don't want to see him just thrown away and treated like he's a 2-cent villain, which sometimes happens with him. And he's more than that. So this is, I mean, this is great. And I also would love if Marvel would do the DC thing and then give me a complete YA graphic novel with Alex Lins telling me the story of young Namor, right? Getting in fights with other kids, like being the weird light-skinned person in the blue people family. Like, there's a lot of stories to tell there. And I never thought about this, but Alex Lynn kind of has a style that's like a modern throwback to Bill Everett, to some of those early Namor stories. Like, I love Bill Everett's art in that first Namor story. I think it's really, really cool. It is nothing like what you saw when Marvel took it and ran with it, but it's very unique in the way that it's stylized. And I think Alex Lins has some of that in a very dynamic, very kinetic sort of way.
I have a question.
Okay.
Going on something you had said a couple months ago about Namor's role in Wakanda.
Mm-hmm.
How is that? Because it sounds like it's immediately picking up on threads from the Avengers, but there was that development. Is that addressed at all?
That's not touched in this so far. I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Okay.
I mean, there's still bad blood. I mean, there's bad blood from those two, from especially with him and there's a lot that can be done there. There is bad blood between him and T'Challa going all the way back to Hickman's Avengers run, where T'Challa, I mean, there was, I mean, again, lots of just murder happens around these characters. And so right now, if you're reading the Black Panther book, which if you are great, I am, you don't have to, it's not great. But the most recent Black Panther book is T'Challa's in exile. He's not the king of Wakanda right now, and he's actually had to go off into some of the outskirts and kind of be a behind-the-scenes shadowy superhero for that world. So it'd be cool to see both of these kings who are exiled from their kingdoms right now have a culmination moment where they have to rely on each other to get back to power. Or get back in good standing with their people. I don't know if that can happen. Yeah, that would be a weird dynamic and a very stressful juxtaposition of characters.
It was just interesting because Namor played a big role in why T'Challa is on the outs.
Yep,
and it just seems that would be a more sensible jumping off point because it's more recent in time.
Well, maybe right. Like, and this is only the first. Like, I think that they will get to this, but this is giving you a 4-day window to go deal with like World War Namor that he just kind of went through. So,
okay. Now, out of us, I actually don't have a big 2 book, but Steve, you have another DC book.
How did that happen?
Why don't we talk about that, because I can chime in on that one.
Oh, awesome! Oh, cool. So, again with DC, and you'll see it behind me, that is an image of the first issue of the DC Black Label series Zatanna, Bring Down the House, by Marika Tamaki and Javier Rodriguez on art. And this was a lot of fun. It's rare that we see a Zatanna solo book, and in this case, this particular book is it's a Black Label, so it's kind of not really attuned to continuity. It does refer to a lot of things that may have happened in her origin, but this, you could take it as a standalone story. And if you haven't read anything about Zatanna before, this is fine to actually just jump on and understand that she is the daughter of a famous, a famous actual magician who essentially has fallen into not necessarily hard times, but not exactly the peak of her professional development. She's now a Vegas act, and is essentially performing for free as part of hey, if you come to this casino, you get free vouchers to go see this magician do some magic
If
tricks.
you went to the water park.
Yeah, if you went to the water park, so it's like you go to the water park and you get to see the show for free. Which if you've ever been to Vegas, some of them it's like, hey, if you buy a ticket to this buffet, you can go see these comedians or something. So it's an interesting book. I actually got myself the art germ cover, which is beautiful and she's a little bit extra buxom, but it's just beautifully done. But anyway, going to this. So Mariko Tamaki, she's just a great writer. I love all of her stuff. I love her TV that she writes. I love her own independent stuff that she's written. But here she does a really good job of really understanding the Zatanna character. Not a lot of confidence all the time, but has a lot of inner strength and very interesting character. So she opens it up back with a young Zatanna doing a magic show for the kids in the neighborhood, and they're not super exciting magic tricks. They're pretty basic, like find the ball or where's the which card is which card. And unfortunately, the kids are being kids and being relatively cruel. So one kid's basically challenging her. That's not real magic. That's crappy. I want to see some real magic. Well, Zatanna, being the daughter of Zatara, who is the DC universe's like strongest magician, classically, she decides to let something rip, and unfortunately, disintegrates or eradicates some of the children. They get sucked into a void and are gone forever. It happens when you're 10 and you're trying to show off. You kick some small children into a formless void. She goes to ask her dad for help, and her dad's like, "What now? I'm plumbing the depths of the mysteries of the universe. What kind of craziness did you get up to?" "Well, fortunately, I killed a kid." And so then it fast forwards back to her current life in Vegas, being a Vegas magician. And there's something that's going on. Something is strange. The rabbits in her apartment are scared of her or something around her, and they're acting very strangely. When she's out jogging through the desert, something's happening with her shadow. There's something that's going on that's not normal. And of course, being a magical, a magic user, being one of the central magic users of this universe, even in this version of her, she tends to attract that kind of thing from happening. So she's putting on her show, and she recognizes a particular person that keeps popping up in every single one of her shows, and has been for the past 2 weeks. Like every show, multiple times of the day, wearing a different outfit every time. And it's this little figure that's wearing sunglasses down here. She wants to challenge that person. She's like, "There's something up with you. There's something that's crazy. Like, what's going on? How are you, still here? Like, why are you seeing my show so many times? There must be something wrong with you. The water park's not that exciting." And of course, when she goes to confront this person, something comes out of the shadows to make its presence known. One of the main themes of this book that's already being put out, Mariko Tamaki in her own personal writing, follows us a lot, and that is sort of like, why are you not being yourself? And this is what this mysterious stranger kind of challenges Zatanna with before all hell breaks loose in the theater. Why are you not doing real magic? You can do real magic. Why are you doing these tricks and illusions? What's wrong? Why are you denying who you are? And I think that's going to be, a theme throughout this miniseries. is exploring that. Like, what is it? The fear that something horrible is going to happen again, like it did when she was a kid? Is it because Zatara has been banished to some realm? He's gone. She thinks he's dead, and she doesn't want that to happen with her. What's holding her back? What is she afraid of? And I think we'll see some interesting things. I'm curious to see what other kind of famous magic users in the DC universe are going to pop up. Are we going to see not Enigma, Mr. E? Are we going to see the Phantom Stranger? Potentially, this character might be a Phantom Stranger.
It is.
No.
Yeah. No, the eyes give it away.
Yeah. Although there's a missing necklace. I'm expecting a necklace, but there's other things that are potential here. And I love a Zatanna story. I love a DC Magic story. We're probably going to see Constantine show up because, of course.
Oh God, give him a break. We don't need him.
Yeah.
We have.
We don't need him.
We don't need him. We don't need him. And we've had plenty of John and Z stories. We've had enough. Yeah, I'm not on board for that.
Oh, don't yuck my yum. But anyway, but I'm
disagree with me that we haven't had enough. We haven't had plenty of those stories.
I kind of always love a John and Z story. Always.
All right.
I mean, I kind of feel
plenty to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty.
You got plenty.
They go back.
You got plenty. I don't want him around.
I kind of feel the same way about Constantine and Swamp Thing, though. I like when you see them together, and there's been a ton of those too. It's
Yeah.
Going back to the 80s.
Okay, so I like this a lot. Caleb, I think you will like this a lot because in flavor, it's very close to her run on She-Hulk.
Yeah.
It's very close to her run on She-Hulk about these stories that are like, even if it's a mundane activity, there's a sadness behind it, and there was a particular vibe to the She-Hulk that I think it's complimentary.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I really liked is you have a DC, I don't want to say horror, but a magic book where most of the action takes place in broad daylight. I think that was a nice change. I will agree with you, Steve, that there is this element that's at the core of a lot of Mariko's works of not being your true self. This is coupled, however, with her being an underachiever, and her very deliberately doing that because there's some exchanges in the book with a manager booker type of person where she doesn't have to be on the crappy part of the strip. She can do better. She knows that she can do better. She's a good looking woman. She's, there's a lot of things that are in her favor towards that. And that she basically chooses some degree of the lower echelons is core to this version of Zatanna. I thought the colors were great. Again, going to that image of like a different kind of magic story where almost all of it, apart from the stage scenes, are in broad daylight, which I think was such a nice turn. We may be disagreeing who the stranger is. I'm confident, as somebody who's been familiar with the characters since 1973, and it was. I'm fine with this. I really and I don't know what this. What has Javier Rodriguez done before this?
The Defenders with Al.
Yep. That's what it was.
Like weirdo Defenders. Okay.
Can I pull a rabbit out of the hat and drop a little magic and surprise you guys?
Yeah.
I read this.
You did.
I did.
Cool.
I read this not because Mariko Tamaki was on it. I read this because of Rodriguez.
Okay.
I love Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez is an amazing artist that really understands not just layouts, has an amazing eye for the composition of the page, but also knows how to play with the medium in a meta sense. If you read that Defenders series with Al Ewing that Rodriguez was on, and some of that was Al Ewing's writing too, but Rodriguez plays with the medium, right? The building blocks of the medium. There's a lot of meta moments in there where it really breaks through. And part of that, you mentioned the colors, Bill. Those colors are basic 4-color printing colors, right? He's going back to the original printing process, that original 4 colors, and utilize. I mean, obviously there's a lot more, but you're getting cyan, right? You're getting that fuchsia, and he's going back to the building blocks, or I should say I don't know that they are going back to the building blocks of what makes comics work, to where they're playing with it. And they are playing with the mechanics of the page. Like I said, break the fourth wall a lot in the Al Ewing Defenders book, but with this, I didn't see as much of that. I would not be surprised to, and it would make sense, right? It's got a very 2-dimensional feel, but in a way that's very large, in a way that feels very spacious, and I love it.
It's something you mentioned. Even that is meta in terms of using classic colors, but on high quality paper. That the Black Label books utilize. It's an interesting book.
Well, and you mentioned the fact that you have that horror scene that takes place in daylight. That, yes, it is refreshing. Rodriguez is not going to use a lot of dark colors a lot, right? You're not going to, like, it doesn't make sense for Rodriguez to use those.
Oh, I apologize. Amber alert.
Okay. I hope Amber's okay.
Those are always scary.
Yeah.
I get that when it's either a flash flood or a tornado.
They're not mock. I don't know. I'm kind of rambunctious tonight. Yeah.
Well, love and hope to whoever's going through something on that end of things. But back to what we're talking about. The color scheme that Rodriguez works with is not a dark and brooding and murky color. You get these bright things. You get these really elemental, and I think that's what it is. Rodriguez is an elemental type artist, right? It's no frills, but it's amazing.
Okay.
Victor Thoros has joined us, and he actually makes a little joke here. I like the box body split one. It is cute. Yeah. And again, you see how he's played with the with the individual panels themselves to kind of interlock.
Dude's also great with faces.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love his faces.
Yeah.
Love his faces.
Okay. Single line goes a long way.
Well, this is a good transition to my book because this is also bright and colory, I guess. I'll talk about my two books in tandem because they're not big two, but let's say they're kind of big two, big property adjacent. So the first book I want to talk about, and this is a new series from Mad Cave, based on the classic Japanese anime Gatchaman. And Steve, if you have that graphic, it would be nice to pull it up.
I do.
Because it's great radio. Okay.
The best.
Okay,
radio.
So you probably can see a little bit over the logo about who this creative team are, and that's Cullen Bunn as the writer, Chris Batista as the artist, and big chef's kiss to Carlos Lopez as the colorist. For people my age, and maybe Steve, you may have gotten some of this in later reruns. Gatchaman came to us in the U.S. shores as Battle of the Planets, but it was a very Americanized, childrenized version of the original Japanese anime, which is a bit darker. What was interesting with this, though, is it takes a more Battle of the Planets feel than Gatchaman feel, because there's some dark stuff that goes on in Gatchaman. There's, characters dying, which you would never get in the, in what was perceived as the for children version. This is one of many covers that are out, and both of my books, one from Dynamite and one from Mad Cave, you have an abundance of choices in relation to what covers you want to have. So Steve, you can go over to the next graphic. This is the Gatchaman team in action. Ken, Joe, Ryu, Jinpei. Oh God, I'm blanking on the princess's name. I'll just call her Princess. but she's the Swan. And they are, as you see, they're battling members of Galactor, which is their main enemy. But at the beginning of the story, it's not Galactor that they basically combat. They combat another Gatchaman team, and this Gatchaman team is being trained to be another backup force for if the Gatchaman team is incapacitated or unavailable. And the storyline is very simple. There is a science institute. There's stuff that is going on at the institute that the Gatchaman team should be protecting. And since it's Galactor, they're going to involve a weird monster. And Steve, if you can go to another shot there, this is the weird monster in a really nice 2-page spread by Chris Batista. Really interesting choice here. It's a very nice balance between classic comics and manga. It kind of has a foot in both. It kind of has a foot in both lands there. And so this is one of those kind of living monsters that they often would have to deal with in the original series. And if you can go to the next shot, I believe I provided 3 there. This is how they do it. But it turns out, as they're in their ship, as was known in the Battle of the Planets, the Fiery Phoenix, they basically go offline after they make this move to try to kill the creature or to stop the creature. So basically, we're left at the end of the issue with a blank screen coming from the Gatchaman team. So this new Gatchaman team that's being trained, they may have to go into action much quicker than they anticipated. Now, Colin Bunn is great with extended arcs. So I don't know what the plan is. I know it's being solicited as an ongoing, but that doesn't really mean much these days, because sometimes they're kind of stealth miniseries masquerading as ongoings. But Cullen Bunn as a writer is very good at the long game, and be really interested to see where this goes. The last version in the States of Gatchaman in any context in comics was as Battle of the Planets with Top Cow Image, one of the best first issues ever. I'll maintain that. Battle of the Planets #1, one of the best first issues ever. It was a really good run of the main title and the various miniseries that were associated with it. The days of Battle of the Planets are basically over. There's no relationship with Sandy Frank Enterprises that had the Americanized version. So this is what we're going to get, and what we're getting is pretty good. So really like this.
So I've been wondering where Cullen has been hiding, because he has not been nearly as prolific as he used to be. There for a while that the man had books coming out. He'd have multiple #1s come out in the same week, same month. I don't know what happened behind the scenes in comics world where Cullen kind of fell out of vogue with some of the bigger publishers. It's a shame, because Cullen is absolutely an insanely talented writer. Harrow County is one of my favorite series of all times. But I mean, we were talking earlier about our favorite Deadpool runs. The ones off the top of my head I can think of were written by Cullen Bunn. Some of those mini series that he did on Deadpool. So like I said, I don't know what happened there. I'm glad to see him back again, though, and hopefully this is just one of many, and he will come back and give us, and I may need to start reading this. Hopefully, like you said, it is a long form story, because between that and Six Gun, he's incredible at what he does.
Yeah. I was actually just looking back at my collection of Six Gun trades, and that as a long form story, that was one of my favorites for a long time.
Yeah, just taking a quick look, it seems like the last big 2 project, which wasn't that long ago, 2019, was as Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
But even with the assignments, they don't seem to be the prestige ones that he's been landing in the past. I know Six Gun has continued in different forms in different shorter series. But yeah, it's not a name you've seen in solicits often over the last 3 years. Absolutely.
I mean, he's had some a few one shots, a few horror small short series.
Yeah.
Out, but
yeah.
I
think
I love everything I've read from his.
Who's the writer that lost part of his memory at Marvel? Was in the car accident and lost 6 months of memory.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can't remember it.
I'm blanking, but I remember that.
I think he may have finished up his Venom run. I think Cullen may have finished up his Venom run, but no, it's a he's been pretty good on team books in the past. This is the team book, and
Donnie Cates Agent Venom stuff too.
What?
Didn't he do the Agent Venom stuff? Wasn't that Cullen?
I think he did. Yeah.
You're thinking of Donnie Cates, by the way, that who had the accents.
Donnie Cates. Very long run on Sinestro for DC. Yeah. So and stuff. So the other thing is a follow-up from a couple weeks ago where I waxed poetic about Space Ghost #1. Well, I've gotten Space Ghost 2 and 3 since then. This is a book by Dynamite on the classic 60s character from Hanna-Barbera. Absolutely gorgeous cover, as you can see here.
Jay Lee, isn't it?
Yeah, Jay Lee. And but it's like you go into their back material and they provide all the covers, and there's just so many beautiful choices, just absolutely beautiful choices. But this was mine. The cover has nothing to do with the story. We don't get Gorak until issue 4, apparently. But so the second issue, where we had left off in Space Ghost #1, and again, this is a new continuity from anything that previously appeared in comics in DC with his own series, and then later with Future Quest. So this is a new continuity. Jan and Jace, who have just become his sidekicks, have had their father killed. Their father was a very renowned scientist. The monkey character that accompanies them is named Blip. Apparently, Blip is very, very important. And there is an entity in the universe that is after them, RoboCorp. And so Space Ghost rescues those kids. This all happened in issue 1. And he's taking him to his own planet to hide. And we start to get some of Space Ghost's backstory. In previous continuities, his wife and child died. That does seem to be carried over into this. And Steve, if you can go over to the next couple of graphics, you'll see this really great art by David Pepose. I'm sorry, by Jonathan Lowe. You got the ship. You have Space Ghost, looking thick as F, and the two teens in this continuity, brother and sister, are trying to get some information out of him as he takes them to what is known as the Ghost Planet now. And it's a ghost planet because some really bad shit went down. Steve, if you can go to another thing here, again. Just a beautiful action shot of Space Ghost, basically pummeling through an asteroid. And we start to get some of the back information. His first name is Dax. Little bits of information of him are tripping through. In the second issue, you like this? Isn't it?
Sorry, this art is amazing.
Isn't it?
I didn't expect it. I'm like, this is the first time I've seen this, and I'm literally like, I thought I was muted, so I'm just like, motherfuck, this is
it's hard, because again, one thing that is like a downside of the multiple covers variant dynamic is sometimes you don't get a sense of what the interiors are like at all if you're standing back.
Which is true. Now it's true of a lot of stuff, even if there's not a bunch of covers, right? It doesn't say what it is. But it reminds me of someone, and I cannot put my finger on it. Who was the artist on Second Coming?
I can't think of that. I can't think of that offhand.
Reminds me a little bit of that. I'll think of it here short. I've got original art by them, so I should know.
But as you can see here with Space Ghost, he has his he pummels that asteroid, and they're on the ghost planet. There's a bit of distrust between Space Ghost and Jan and Jace. There is an energy creature that's hanging out around the perimeter of the planet, and Jace does something stupid and steals Space Ghost's ship. Space Ghost goes to remediate that, and they have to battle the creature. And again, these kids are super smart. Richard Pace, these kids are super smart, and they know how to defeat the creature. Space Ghost really appreciates this, and he kind of takes them under his wing officially. And Steve, I didn't give you this as a graphic, but you can see here Jan and Jace get their uniforms. A lot of terrain covered in the second issue, a lot of terrain covered in the third issue. Steve, if you can just pull up those graphics for the third issue. So they're going after this RoboCore because they killed Jan and Jace's father. The kids want revenge. They've been messing up with Space Ghost stuff. And again, just an absolutely gorgeous cover there. This time the main one by Jonathan Lau again. And we have some shots there of them going through areas of the universe, trying to find people that matter, people that make a difference to RoboCorp's goings on. And in that, they encounter this woman who is known as the Widow. And the Widow is called the Widow because she does some creepy stuff to her past husbands. She's a baddie, but she at least promotes it first that she is after RoboCore 2. A friend of my friend is my enemy, and they join forces to try to take them down. However, there's a betrayal, but also you're talking about two really smart teens here, and one of them ain't having it. Really nice set of twists and turns in this issue. I know I'm like really old man tonight, not just the gray hair, but I'm retro 60s book, retro 70s book, and I'm wearing a retro 80s t-shirt. But I'm okay with that. These were all very fun reads, and this is the kind of stuff that's at the top of my stack right now. This pure escapism, and I have no regrets.
we have a comment here from Victor Rose again, talking about this page right here, the top panel from issue number 2 with Space Ghost's energy, and just like that layering process that the artist used there. It's a beautiful compliment to that.
And since you were mentioning the art, let me just point out some other points of art. Just a beautiful depiction of a destroyed planet. Absolutely beautiful. Says everything you need to know about what went down without one word. And there's just so much to be admired in this series. I'm really enjoying it right now.
So
really.
I'd stepped off screen for those of you who are actually watching the show, but for folks who are listening later, you didn't see that. Richard Pace is the artist that I was trying to think of, and I could not think of it, who drew Second Coming. And that's who this reminds me a lot of. Yeah. I, number one, want to go pick this up and read this. I wanted to after you mentioned it for the first issue, but now I'm definitely sold. I want to see more of this art. And I kind of want to look into seeing whether or not this is a digital artist. I know the colors are done digitally, but I wonder about the line work, because I would legit, that page you showed where the bottom half of it's got somebody who's totally not Count Nefaria from Marvel, murder scalpeling a monkey. I would buy that page. I think that looks pretty cool.
Yeah. And also, the story ain't bad. The story ain't bad.
It sounds great.
Story, very easy to jump on in that context, and digging it. We're up a little against time, but I do believe we have enough time to get through Caleb's last book. So why don't we go there?
And it's a short book, so it'll be a short review. And so, I had one book that was Marvel and big mainstream, and this next one is another Silver Sprocket book. The last time we were all together, I spoke about Silver Sprocket, spoke about a different book. This one, very, very good. Also gifted to me by my friend David Price, Viscera Objectiva by Hugo Limbo. The story is, it's a mind trip, right? It's about this person named Vito, and Vito is a tailor. Vito, very good with fabrics, loves texture, understands how to put things together. Is an interesting person, right? Is very I would say is kind of this neo effeminate, where it's like, very has body hair, facial hair, but is also very much into wearing clothes that aren't gender normative for people who identify as men. Lots of interesting personality traits here, but loves crafting, right? Loves creating things. And one day, Vito is just walking through a marketplace and sees a doll and becomes infatuated by this doll. Purchases it, takes it home, starts crafting with it, and then one day notices that there's a tear in it. There's a lot of moments in this book that it borderlines creating a almost a romantic relationship between this doll and Vito, but then it takes it and it talks about, hey, this isn't actually a romantic. It's this idea of love, a love of a material thing that I know is a material thing, right? And there's a sense of physicality because I can touch it, but it's not this is not a substitute for human relationships. But it's my thing, right? It's my thing with this creature that I love. I care for it. I nourish it. I fix it. I make clothes for it. I do things with it, and it becomes a part of my daily life. And it brings me joy, and it brings me happiness, and it brings me peace. And I find it very interesting to have that kind of relationship with a material thing. As a collector, I love my stuff, right? I love my books. I love my thing. I still have my childhood teddy bear. Bill, I know you're a big, you're a collector, right? You love the physical things that we keep and collect and touch, and we have relationships with these things that are that fill our daily lives. But this relationship's different than that, right? This relationship is not just that this is a cool thing that I have nostalgia for. This is a daily relationship that this character invests in, right? That Hugo Limba kind of takes and to some degree is self-expressive about it. And there's a really good write-up in the back of the book that he talks about what this is, what this this kind of concept, this viscera objectiva is, to have this relationship with a thing that becomes a part of your life. I really, really enjoy the art here. It is Steve is showing a panel. It's dialed down. It's very the book's all in black and white. It's very simplistic. It is boiled down to kind of the bare essence of the comic art and lines. It's not trying to be anything. It's not photorealism at all, right? It's kind of got this very much indie comics, newsprint, do everything with a simple line. But for a book that's so much about materialism and texture and stuff, it plays with that very well. And the way that he does the way that the character uses, just I don't even know how to describe it, right? It's not Zipatone, which y'all know I'm a whore for Zipatone, but it is the texture of the line that just goes throughout, and the shading and stuff that gives you a sense of the physicality of what you're seeing. I thought it was fantastic. It makes you understand a feeling that you might not be familiar with, and that is very hard to do. Or at least in my experience, it's very hard to do. So go check out Silver Sprocket. Once again, they produce some amazing stuff. The stuff is weird. It's quirky. It's stuff that you're not going to see in mainstream publishing in a lot of places. So it's fun. And it will broaden your horizons. And what is art if not meant to do that?
I did have a question about this. Is this a translated book? Was this originally published in?
No, they're from Seattle. They're from Seattle.
No, I mean this particular book that they're publishing, was this originally?
Why would it be translated if they're from Seattle?
So are you saying that Hugo Limba is from Seattle, or the publisher?
Seattle, yes.
Okay.
Hugo Limba is from Seattle?
Oh. Yeah. They have, and I believe it's a they them, but I don't want to put hands of Bible on that. They had another book, Be Kind, My Neighbor, also from Silver Sprocket, which is touted as an LGBT psychedelic horror story. So I think we're all interested in that. For some reason, it's a familiar name, but I'm not exactly sure why. I think they may have had a contribution in another anthology that I saw. Hey, there's something there. But Caleb, if you also want to go to their website, they've also done an album cover. Vinyl cover. So you might check that out.
They do go by they them. So Hugo Limba, there is a little bio in the back of the book. Also,
I love the picture.
Check that out. That's beautiful. Hugo Limba is a peculiar cheese of the LGBT variety. They're an animator, game developer, and comic artist known for kitschy, surreal, and goofy art. Their work includes the graphic novel Be Kind, My Neighbor, as well as the cult indie game Smile for Me from their two-person game studio Limbo Lane. Their work is flavored with notes of 60s psychedelia, 70s European cartoons, and a pinch of folk horror. A pretty yummy stew, if you ask me.
And see, that's what kind of like to me made me ask that question, because it's like it feels like
European.
a very
European,
like European, very Spanish comic maybe, or something that you would see a lot in sort of like indie European scene brought over here. But I think that's really cool. And again, I'm a huge Silver Sprocket lover. I love what they throw out there. Some of the fun stuff that I've picked up, and I still need to grab the last issue of Pee Pee Poo Poo, but I will get that soon.
Yeah.
That looks very interesting, and again, it's the name I'm connecting with something, and I just can't remember it. It may have been an appearance in an anthology. There you go. So,
yeah,
I'm just going to show that to the folks who are. There's a quiet moment. I'm showing some pictures there. So,
yeah,
Viscera Objectiva, Silver Sprocket, Hugo Limbo.
Cool. So we had a nice balance. We had big two. We had big licensed books, and the coda here is a nice independent stuff from a creator that I think we're all interested in some capacity from what we're viewing there. I definitely want to look into that.
It do be facts.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to start wrapping up this episode of the Comic Book Bears podcast up, and on our journey towards the end, we have a stop before the final stop. And that is something we call Geek Gets, where we show off what we've gotten that is of the geek variety that we may have acquired over the last 2 weeks. Steve always complains that he never gets anything because he never goes out, blah, 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 blah. He's already shown you that poster. Do you have anything else, Steve?
I do. I am not known for wearing hats, but I did get a nice Deadpool hat from our good friends over at Disney Movie Insiders. This was one of their Wednesday wins, which again I've talked about it and Bill's talked about before. Check that website. I mean, if you get points automatically for just being Disney Plus subscriber or going and seeing a Disney studio, whatever studio is related to Disney, going to get a movie ticket, and then you can get points for that. But this was not too many points, and it's a pretty nice hat. I might actually wear this out in public when I go see Deadpool and Wolverine. But
all right, Steve, you've basically made both myself and Caleb wear our hats backwards in the past, so you got to do it now.
Yep, do it now.
I look so bad though wearing anything like.
You look fine.
You look good. Yeah, you do not look bad in a backwards hat.
Yeah.
I mean,
forwards, backwards. I just can't wear hats, so I don't.
No, it looks fine backwards.
I don't have a head for it.
Okay. Over to Caleb. Do you have any Geek Gets?
I sure do. I've got one. I actually have two that I'll be quick about. The first one is a new album. This is from a band I really like called Highly Suspect. If you're not familiar with them, they're kind of a blues rock band, right? I think the way I said it, at their best, they're very reminiscent of. I said it the other day, and now I've forgotten it. Right, they're like Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. Some at their worst, So at their worst, they kind of sound like they really want to be whatever that band that wrote your set, Kings of Leon, right? Which is that. I'm not a super huge fan. Just not. So I just never really cared for them. They had that one song, and everything else was like, okay.
One song.
No.
Oh, for God's sake!
All
All
right.
right. Keep
So,
going.
yeah,
Keep
just
going.
They're a
didn't.
small local garage band.
No, they're not. No, I know they're large and they have a very good following. I just don't care for them. I just didn't like them. I would.
Do you like My Modern Jacket better? More?
I'm not as super familiar with them.
Okay.
So I can't say that.
Not exactly blue, yeah, but anyway.
Yeah.
And I also wouldn't lump Kings of Leon in that bucket.
No, they're not. But Kings of Leon's not blues rock, but they have some songs on here that are very like, okay, I see what you were trying to do, and it comes off as Kings of Leon, right?
Okay.
Fun band. I love blues rock. Like, so it's good stuff. So go check that out. The second thing I have is not something that's new, but it is something that's new to me, and I have actually not seen it yet, so no spoilers. But I got this in the mail this week. Daddy and the Muscle Academy, the life, art, and times of Tom of Finland. I am obviously a Tom of Finland fan. Not only just because I wear T-shirts, but like I got a whole up there that's just mostly Tom of Finland books and some Rob Halford stuff. I have the reason I go to the gym is because I want to look like a Tom of Finland character, right? Like that's just who I am as a person. Obviously, men in leather is a thing that I enjoy. Also, cowboy boots and denim and the large things that they have in their pockets.
I'm okay with you doing that, but don't do that thing as you're doing it. It's bothersome.
Okay. I don't even know what to call that. I was just like, that was more so me just like stretching because my shoulders are sore because I did shoulders day at the gym. But I cannot wait. I've heard amazing things about it. I do love Tom of Finland. I'm obsessed with his life. He is fascinating. Like Bill, you mentioned earlier, you and I are lawyers. I think Tom of Finland plays a very important role in the understanding of the First Amendment in this country and in creators' rights abroad, right? So I really enjoy what he means both for me in a number of aspects of my life. So cannot wait to watch that.
All right, cool.
I think the other two of us have seen that already. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we both.
Oh, I saw it years ago.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not new. It's just new to me.
Yeah. Okay. Couple Geek Gets I want to point out. I got this comic from my friends Rob and Kathy Stager from their trip to Madrid. It's from a few years ago. It's the first Spanish issue of Teen Titans Go, so it's all in Spanish. I love foreign editions, man. Oh my God, I love foreign editions. So I was very happy with that. And then on some sales and the regular issue on the home video front, I got the last installment in the DC Crisis on Infinite Earths original animation series. I'll be getting to that soon. And then this is actually a series I never watched because I was of a certain age where I wasn't watching Saturday morning cartoons anymore. And that's Thundar the Barbarian, part of the Warner Brothers Archive collection on Blu-ray, the complete series. I'll be getting into that soon. And that was from Ruby Spears, which was kind of an offshoot of Hanna-Barbera. They were all under the same corporate umbrella now. So,
Okay. So
we got that. So there haven't been too many Blu-ray editions of the Hanna-Barbera and Ruby Spears stuff. Glad some stuff is making it into that format. All right. Well, we're on our last stop of our journey tonight. And when we hit the end of an episode of the Comic Book Bears, we do so with a segment we call the Woofs of the Week. In the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you woof at him. And we do something like that, very similar, where we woof at something which may be comic book related, but it also may be a film or a TV program or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener, or possibly viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start as I always do with Steve. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
Well, this should come as no surprise to anybody, but my woof of the week is TV related, and it is a revival of a film that most people probably have either forgotten or just extreme geeks and love it, or just never thought it was all that great and like, why are we making a TV series about it? And that is, of course, Time Bandits is being brought back by Apple TV Plus. Taika Waititi is co-creator on this one, along with Ian Morris, who is one of the co-creators of The In-Betweeners, if you've ever seen that British series, and Jermaine Clement as well, and they also handle the writing duties. Taika Waititi plays the Supreme Being. Jermaine Clement plays the Supreme Evil One. Basically, if you're not familiar with the original film, that's okay. If you've never seen it, or if you really loved it, it doesn't really matter, because this is something a little bit new. It takes that concept and refreshes it for 2024. I think it's gorgeous. It's well shot. It's really fun. The intro sequence is straight out of a BBC sci-fi series in the 80s. It feels like I'm watching like the opening to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or something. But it's fun. It's wacky. The effects show that they actually have Apple TV money, so that's awesome. But it's just a fun cast of characters. One of the main people, of course, is and I've just forgotten her name. If my brain has just gone blank. I don't know. But anyway, Lisa Kudrow. Jesus, my brain. So Lisa Kudrow, of course, as one of the leads in this. But I love it. I recommend it. If you've got Apple TV Plus, check this out. It is airing weekly on, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesdays. So the first 2 episodes are out now.
All right, over to Caleb. Caleb, what is your Wolf of the Week?
So my Wolf of the Week, I watched on TV, but it's actually a movie. And this is a movie that's streaming on Amazon Prime right now that you can go watch. Steve, I think I shot you over. There we go. This is a movie called Giant Little Ones. Love without labels, live without regrets. Yeah, it's a cute little saying. But it's won a lot of awards. It is a queer movie. The long and short of it is these two guys, right? They're teenagers in high school. They're both on the swim team. They've been best friends for years. One night at a party, there's some drinks going around, and they stay the night with each other, and something happens, right? Well, this inevitably gets out. But it flips that trope on its head, right? We've all seen that movie, you know what about it is. Well, the person that it gets out about, like, is actually the one that's not the gay one, right? It's just like, hey, we had a moment, but that's not. And the other one is the one that's kind of hiding things. Very interesting dynamic between the two. Very good show. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The Hubs also liked it. Kind of a coming out story, kind of a childhood trauma story, kind of just a, hey, things are not always what they seem, and that's okay story. So it's fun stuff. So go check this out again, streaming on Amazon Prime.
All right, cool. My Wolf of the Week is very bear related. If you're within my orbit, you know that I am a huge Green Bay Packers fan. And another Green Bay Packers fan in my orbit is Mr. Tommy Johns, but he's not being identified for the Wolf of the Week because of the Green Bay Packers, but because of his music. He recently put together a new album, The Center. And if you go to Tommy's Facebook page or his Instagram page, where he has the moniker of Dutch Fuzz, you can get a copy. Really great straight ahead rock. Very happy that he was able to release this. And then the other thing that I want to say, and this is not exactly a Wolf of the Week, but something that is bear community related that we're very happy, but it's also very a very unfortunate situation, is a past guest and our good friend and member of a brother podcast, the Movie Bears podcast. Will Lindis was recently in the hospital with some issues, and he's back home. And Will, we just want you to know that we're thinking of you and hoping everything is on the trajectory back up. So thinking of you, Will. So absolutely. All right. So that's another episode of the Comic Book Bears podcast. If you want to listen to us, you can do so by downloading us through Apple Podcasts, listen to us through Spotify and many of the other podcatching platforms. Thank you, YouTube Podcast. We seem to really be gaining some traction there, which is great. I'm so happy about that. So that's another avenue where you can listen to us. If you want to reach out to us, you can do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. gmail.com. Our Facebook page is probably our best point of contact, which is as Comic Book Bears Podcast. And many of the other not podcatching, but social media outlets like Blue Sky and Threads and X, you can find us as Comic Book Bears. Until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
And I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
If you're listening to the audio version, you're going to hear a wolf and an explosion. We'll be back in about 2 weeks. Take care, everyone.
Woof.
Woof. Woof.